homes should train as HGV drivers, as fruit pickers and as butchers, so the UK doesn't have to rely on foreign workers to fill jobs. That is the message from the Home Secretary in a speech today.
Suella Braverman will warn the UK mustn't forget how to do things for ourselves, as reports suggest the Home Office is braced for net migration to reach potentially close to 1 million this year, a record level. And the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, joins us now. So the Home Secretary is saying to the Prime Minister she wants to take back control of migration and to get it down. Feels a bit ironic.
Well, we're now 7 years after the Brexit vote. And, of course, I'm sure we all agree, we want to train up more Brits to be construction workers, social workers and the like. And we're doing that in London. But I speak on a daily basis to businesses, to those who work in care homes, those who work in the NHS. And we have in London record numbers of vacancies in construction, in social care, in healthcare and so forth. We have a skills shortage and a labour shortage. And you wouldn't know, if you're a Martian landed in the UK, that the Conservatives have been in power since 2010, and Brexit, the vote happened in 2016.
In a speech in January, you said that London should be able to set its own immigration rules to ensure there are enough skilled workers to run essential services. You told business a few years ago, but after the referendum, that it's time for us to stand up and make the case for the freedom of movement of people and the benefits it has brought to our economy. If you were setting rules for London, do you think allowing a return to free movement from the EU into the London economy would be good for jobs and business in the capital?
Well, putting aside the cultural benefits to our countries of migration, the social benefits, there's a massive economic benefit in relation to migration. And the point I was making to the government is, if you're so scared to talk about immigration in a positive sense, if for reasons best known to you, you don't want to encourage the migration we need, devolve to regions of the country the powers to have migration if their economy needs. I fully respect and understand if in other parts of the country, council leaders, mayors and the like don't want inward migration, but they should devolve to London and others the ability to have geographical shortage occupation lists. So I know, because of the various meetings I have, the visits I go on, that our construction sector requires skilled labour for us to build the homes we need. I know, for example, social care has record numbers of vacancies, as indeed does the National Health Service. Yes, we're accelerating the number of Londoners who've got the skills to do these jobs. But Ed, I speak to restaurant owners, really good restaurants, who don't open at lunchtime because they haven't got the staff. Hospitality, you can sometimes go to a gig in London and the bar is not open because there aren't staff to serve the drinks. It doesn't make sense to me that for ideological, dogmatic reasons, we're cutting our noses by our face.
So Keir Starmer has said that if there's a Labour government, there'll be no return to free movement for the UK. But do you think he would agree to allow you to have a return to free movement for London?
No, I accept. I've not yet won the argument in relation to us being members of the single market. And I understand these are discussions we have within the Labour Party. Some you win, some you don't. But I'm sure Keir Starmer understands that actually our country's prosperity relies to all parts of the region playing their share. And I worry our ability as a capital city to contribute net £40 billion a year has been made more harder by a lack of the powers and resources we need. Now, I do know Keir Starmer has been working really hard to devolve powers to other parts of the country. This will be the first government since 1997, should we win, that on winning election will devolve powers to cities and regions around the country. And that, I hope, includes not just more powers and resources to build the homes we need, but also powers in relation to the sort of skilled labour that we need to make sure our economy is firing all cylinders.
Sadiq Khan, the Home Secretary reflects something which I expect a lot of people feel. And she says that too often people get accused of being xenophobic to say it. And I wonder if you would agree with that, whether it is or is not xenophobic. She says mass and rapid migration is unsustainable in terms of housing supply. It's unsustainable in terms of public services and community relations. She says that we need to have an honest discussion about that and not simply label each other bigoted, racist or xenophobic. I can imagine for a lot of particularly young people, particularly in London, wanting housing, they might wonder why it's so hard to come by.
Well, I think the Home Secretary is in danger of building a straw man that isn't there. Nobody sensible is saying there should be uncontrolled migration. I certainly am not. There should be controlled migration. Of course, we should have a control of our borders. But here's the point. Some politicians play on people's fears. Other politicians address people's fears. So, yes, there are people in London worried about the inability of their children to get on the property ladder. There are people in London worried about the problems in relation to getting healthcare for their elderly relations. There are people in London worried about the problems in relation to a decent school. But the blame for that doesn't lie in immigration. It's because successive governments haven't built the genuinely affordable homes that we need. This government, since 2010, hasn't invested in the National Health Service. The government has decimated the funding of schools in London. That's where the responsibility lies. We've had the same government since 2010. And it's the oldest trick in the book. When you're struggling, blame the other. And in this case, the other are migrants.
Can I just ask about a different responsibility you have, which is for the Metropolitan Police? Clearly, there were difficulties on Coronation Day. We're waiting to see if the Home Affairs Select Committee is going to have an inquiry into those events. I just wonder why you, as London Mayor, given you have operational oversight, why didn't you choose to hold an inquiry into those events to show whether the police went outside their powers or made mistakes, or whether the powers weren't working?
Well, first, I think it's possible to, on the same hand, at the same time, say the police, by and large, did a really good job making sure the coronation passed as peacefully as it could. We had more than 310 world leaders in our city, hundreds of thousands watching the coronation, but also to say there are some things the police may have got wrong. So I wrote to the Commissioner, the new Commissioner, shortly after last weekend's coronation to express some of the concerns that I had in relation to the arrests of the 6 members of Republic, the anti-monarchist group, but also the 3 arrests of the volunteers at Westminster City Council. I think it's possible to be pro-police. Sure. But I want to make sure
wonder whether an exchange of letters is enough, or whether you shouldn't have actually
that's not
done something more than that.
Yeah, no, that's not the end of it. And so to give this Commissioner credit, he's agreed to have an operational review. We'll try and ensure that as much of that as possible is made public. At the same time, City Hall's Police and Crime Committee is looking into what happened at last weekend. At the same time, as you'd appreciate, I hold the Commissioner to account. I think it's possible to be somebody that supports the police, but also challenges them as well.
All right, Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Sadiq.